Hi, I'm Rebecca and I teach crazy quilting and wool embroidery stitches here at the Beat. I'm not big into long introductions, so I'm just going to get right to it. Today I'm going to show you a few relatively simple stitches that you can use for either discipline. The first thing I'm going to show you is the buttonhole, and if we're working with wool, I'm using a flannel background just because that's what I like. You start with the needle just on the outside of your penny. Again, I like wool pennies just because that's what I'm into. You bring your needle up and you make a sort of L shape, going over for the bottom and then coming up for the leg and catching that thread under the needle. That's the hardest part of the buttonhole stitch, is getting it started. And now you can see it's easy enough to go on. People ask me all the time 3 questions. Number 1, what needle should I use? Your needle, I'm not dogmatic, your needle should be whatever fits your thread easily and makes a hole big enough for your thread to go through your fabric easily, because if your needle doesn't make a hole big enough, then you're really putting stress on your thread, and that means you're gonna end up fraying it. The other thing people ask me all the time is, oh, how do you get your stitches so even? And the answer is, yeah, I don't. So I have a couple of tricks. I intentionally vary the length of my stitch legs so that it looks like it's on purpose. That solves a whole lot of problems. The buttonhole stitch is a fantastic stitch because it's probably one of the first everybody learns, so a lot of people will already be familiar with it, and also it really lends itself to some other embellishments that will really kick your embroidery stitching up a notch. For example, a little French knot here. And you've got a little flower bud. Or you can do a lazy daisy and make some little flowers, leaves, that kind of thing. Just so you can see that really clearly, I'm gonna do it again on a white fabric with dark thread so that you can really see how it's done. Bring your needle up, you make an L shape. That way and that way. Make sure the thread is underneath the needle. Tighten it up, and there you go. You can probably see that I'm using a really enormous needle, but that's because this is really heavy thread. It's a size 5 pearl cotton. I like to use the bigger threads because I'm doing a lot of work here and I want it to show. Next stitch we're going to do is what I call a V stitch. And this one, I'm going to use a slightly different thread. This is actually a silk, which is ridiculously expensive, but has a lovely sheen and comes with some fantastic variegated versions. I picked this up from Judith Baker Montano, who is a noted crazy quilter. Okay, the V stitch. Again, we're starting right on the outside of the penny, coming down at an angle and up at a different angle, which you'll notice makes a V. Okay, I pull that down and you see that I have one leg of the V. In order to make the other leg, I have to go down in the same hole, come up in the same hole, and there's my V. And I just keep going with that. I'm controlling the size of the stitch just by eyeballing it. Again, don't worry about your evenness very much, because no one will know but you. And when you are all done, it will look fabulous. This stitch also lends itself to some additional embellishments where you can make a French knot or a bullion stitch right there. Actually, the bullion stitch is the next stitch I'm going to show you, so you will get to see that here. But if you are really OCD, okay, I try to fake it, but this is one of my little tricks. If I want a stitch really to be the perfect width, I draw it on my thumb, and then I can use my thumb to measure the width of the stitch. Your little trick for the day. All right, and once again, let's use the white fabric with dark thread so you can really see how it is done. Bring your needle up, bring your needle down at an angle, up at a different angle. And that's where you have the first leg of the V. Then you bring your needle down and up in those same holes. And that's where you get the second leg of your V. And then you're ready to go on to your next stitch. There you go. All right, for the third stitch I'm going to show you, I said it was going to be a bullion stitch, so that's what I'm going to do. Everybody gets a little bit intimidated by this stitch, but the truth is it's really not that hard. What it is an elongated French knot, basically. Okay, so I come up wherever it is I'm going to make this stitch, and then I take a back stitch as long as I want my French knot to be, okay? I push the needle back through to the top of the fabric, and then I do my wraps. Now, if you want your bullion knot to lay flat, then you make as many wraps as the length of your stitch. If you want it to stand up a little bit, you put in a couple extra wraps. You want your wraps to be firm, but not too tight to get your needle through. You make sure you keep your thumbnail on your end of your stitch so that as you pull through, your wraps don't get all cattywampus. Okay, so this is what you end up with, is this little wormy looking thing, okay? Now, you think you're going to go forward, but you're not. You're going to go back along that same stitch that you back stitched, and keeping your wraps taut, you're going to pull the thread through along your back stitch, and then you're going to bring your needle to the back. And there you have it, a little humpy bullion knot. Okay, let's do that again. All right, bullion Actually, I'm not. Coming up, taking a back stitch, okay, that's the length of my knot, making my wraps. Okay, so when you snug them up, if that's the length of your stitch. If you want a little hump, you take a couple more, okay? Put your thumb on your wraps and your thumbnail holding them in there tight. Tighten the stitch, grab hold of your wraps, okay, to keep them taut, and pull in on your stitch. And then you finish it by bringing your needle back down to the back. And there you have it. So that's everything we have for today. Now you've got some tips about things that will make your embroidery work just that much more beautiful. Come visit us at the Bee and get your creative on. Thanks.